And welcome back to the Houston Texans franchise rebuild. Here today, we have another off season. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. Please leave a like, comment down below what you thought of today's action, and don't forget to subscribe. As the Houston Texans are coming off a 9-8 record, missing the postseason for the first time since year 1, we now enter into year 5 with more questions than anything. We have a lot of interesting moves that need to be made for both the future and the longevity of this team, and to put together an attempt to put together a Super Bowl winning roster. So at the end of last episode, we went through all the stats, the Pro Bowl, all of that. So today we're going to start off by evaluating the team, really all the moves that we potentially could be making, and then we're going to get right into it. And these are your Houston Texans, obviously led by both Nick Bosa, Nico Collins, Christian Harris, Dameon Pierce, and company. Of a lot of these young, talented players are homegrown. You know, Pierce was from the first draft. You know, Christian Harris we inherited. Same with Nico Collins. We brought in Bosa. But it's time to talk about this team. And we'll start here at the quarterback position. Mason Pryor going to enter now into year 4 of his young career, and you know, there's mixed feelings that I have about Mason. You know, he's a very mobile quarterback and he has the ability to make every single throw in the book, but at times this past campaign he struggled. He very much regressed. You know, in every major category it was worse other than taking sacks. Now yes, he had a better completion percentage, yards, I believe he had a better yards per game. No, they went down. Everything went down besides the completion percentage and the sacks. But really, for this team to stay consistent, it's up to Mason Pryor. Now, I'm not looking to do anything at the quarterback position. I'm not looking to move off of Pryor. Nothing like that. You know, with Ryan Tannehill, his longevity, you know, I probably won't keep Tannehill. We'll look for a different veteran backup. That, or you know, we'll stick with Daniel Williams as the only other quarterback on the roster. That's really one of the decisions that we will be making in the preseason. But in my opinion, this team is basically gonna go. We got to go all in on Mason Pryor. This is his last year at his rookie deal, and you know, we need him to be able to step up here. When we move over to the running back position, you know, we paid Dameon Pierce, both Tony Pollard and Josh Cole here, you know, entering probably into free agency. You know, I don't know if he'll be able to keep one or both. My perspective is that we're going to be trying to get some more depth across this running back group. But I'm expecting Dameon Pierce to really take the full load next season. You know, his ratings are all in a perfect spot. He has good hands. He can do everything. It's just, we got to give him the opportunity, and I think this season he's going to get it. But we got to get depth behind him. Fullback, we're kind of set at. For wide receiver, this is the other positional spot that is very interesting. You know, we have our top 2 guys here, Nico Collins, Paul Wilkerson. What more could you want from your 1 and 2? In reality, it's mostly figuring out the back half of this roster here. You know, Leon Holt, Brock Morgan, and Tyler Miller, they're all quality receivers, but are any of them really ready to become the number 3 receiver? I think we saw last year why we made the move to trade for Calvin Ridley, who's now an 81 overall due to regression. How much is his contract going to change? I don't know. I would like to keep Ridley, but, you know, I think no matter what, we need a veteran 3rd receiver, you know, unless if we decide in the first round to draft someone. But overall, wide receiver, really any of the positional offensive weapons, we really just need to get either young quality depth or veteran depth. And a lot of these contracts, as we're entering into this offseason, I'm not expecting myself to give out multi-year deals. These are going to be a lot of 1-year contracts. You know, Richard Palmer, I would sit here and say it like this. Palmer had a fantastic season last year. You know, I know he wasn't stretching the field that much, but from a pure possession, staying healthy, which was a concern of mine, I mean, for only missing 3 ball games, you take that every single season. I do think we got to figure out the depth behind him. You know, Tyler Higbee, will he come back? Maybe. He is older now. He's 33. You would really only be keeping him for his blocking, but there's probably better blocking tight ends, and you probably could get younger behind here. This might be a positional group where we just stay young. So in reality, with these top positions here, you know, maybe get a veteran quarterback, maybe draft someone if we really think that Daniel Williams isn't the guy, but I like Williams a lot. You know, we need at least the number 2 running back, a number 2 wide receiver, or a number 3 receiver, and a number 2 tight end, just in case for Richard Palmer if he deals with an injury, because Higbee was the insurance policy, and I don't think that he needs to be anymore. For the offensive line, I mean, we have our starting 5 when we look across the board. We have Tunsil, we have Kenyon Green, we have Tevin Gardner, we have Nate Davis, and then of course Tevin Booth. But the interesting thing about all of this is that, you know, let's be honest here about Tevin Booth. It's kind of been a bust as a first-round draft pick. You know, he's not an elite tackle at all, an elite offensive lineman really at all. You know, he has solid ratings. He's a quality tackle, but he's definitely a player that I am considering moving off of. He is one of the players on my list. You know, this season here, you might sit here and say, well, what about that year? He played guard the entire season. This year he played a guard again, and he had a very bad year, and then he moved to tackle, and same thing, and he dealt with injuries this season. He's dealt with injuries in every single one of his career games, so who knows? For Nate Davis, he's the other potential trade candidate here across this offensive line. He is dealing with a little bit of regression here, just a tad bit it looks like. Actually, maybe not. But he's an excellent run blocker. He is definitely a great player. But Nate Davis, entering the last year of his deal, I'm not looking to pay him long term. So from just getting both younger and cheaper, Nate Davis might be one of those cat moves. He's not at all a bad lineman. You know, he's not giving up a ton of sacks. You know, he helps out in the running game. But I think in terms of just that massive cap hit and everything, Davis could potentially be a player that we move off of. As we now switch gears to the defense, we have John Franklin Myers, and this defensive line here will start out. We have a lot of talent. You know, we have John Franklin Myers, Dwight Pianzo here. We have Nick Bosa, Stephen Dalton. We also throw in, you know, David Elliott. You know, we have a lot of talent here. I'm expecting Cameron Hayworth to retire, and I don't know about Tim Settle just yet. But in reality, you know, Myers can play on both the inside and the outside. Same with Dwight. You got your 2 edge rushers here, and Nate and David Elliott, if he can stay healthy, can play anywhere. You know, he was drafted as defensive end, and he can play that edge rushing position if necessary. The thing is this: we have so much young talent on this defense. It's why I really do think in the first round, we're probably going to go an offensive weapon. This defensive line, though, does not need a ton of work. You know, with Myers, Dwight, with Nick Bosa, obviously, what more can you sit here and say? One player I do want to point out here is Stephen Dalton. He had a fantastic season. 8 sacks. He's always improved on his sacks every single season. I would like to see his tackles go up if he's going to be a starter again, but I definitely think that Stephen Dalton is a very much of an underrated prospect on our roster. I think across the board, defensive tackle, getting a traditional defensive tackle in the first round could make a whole lot of sense for us, but I just don't see myself going in that direction. The thing is this: we need a big year here for David Elliott. You know, Dwight is kind of potentially taking his role. You know, Stephen Dalton's making a massive impact, but I don't think the defensive line is at all a positional group where we need to sit here and focus in on. When we turn over to the linebackers here, you know, we have a few players here that I like Phillip Ford, you know, Carl Watkins here, Tevin Gardner, Turner here. All players that I like. Just got to really kind of figure out these depth linebacker spots. across the board. But we have our top 2 guys here, both Christian Harris and Roman Nova here. There are guys, and long term, you know, who knows what we'll do with for Nova's contract as he's entering into the last year of his deal. But Nova's an excellent playmaker at the linebacker spot, and I don't think that we have to do anything with him. With Rashad Evans, who last offseason we gave him a 2-year contract extension, and you know, he is not really regressing, which is kind of surprising. I don't know if this is regression week anyways, but for me, you know, actually it is. For me, Rashad Evans is definitely a player we can move off of. I know he added, you know, 13 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and that third linebacker is kind of important, kind of not important. But, you know, with a cap hit at $8 million, I could definitely see myself moving off of him. He's kind of in that same boat like Nate Davis. He's a good player, but should we just get younger at this position and get some more draft picks, basically? Evans is on that block as well. Same with Alonzo Carter here. He has 1 more year on his deal. He's an excellent all-around player. You know, he can play off ball. He can rush the passer. He's a good player. He's just not needed on this roster. So he's definitely a player that we're going to look to move off of, most definitely. In terms of the secondary, I mean, we have Derek Stingley, who we all know is a number 1 corner. We have Marcus Cook, who stepped up massively as a number 2 corner. Dory Jackson went up to superstar, so what more can you sit here and say to that? We're going to keep these 3 guys on this roster because these 3 guys are so important to this defense. Kevin Joseph, as well as Isaiah Yadam here. Who knows really what we're going to do with them? Joseph got 2 interceptions in week 18. I don't know if I'm going to keep him long term. We'll probably let him test, but he has solid ratings. Who knows at this moment in time? Don't forget Brenton McLean here, who in my opinion is an all-around very good corner, very good defensive back. He can play anywhere on the defense in terms of the secondary, but he's probably going to be expected to become our number 4 corner. Adoree Jackson is one of the players that I did write down as a potential trade player. I just think that he's too important to this defense. I really do. I don't think that we can go into next season and saying, you know what, let's reopen up the potential for the slot corner position. You know, he had a breakout season. He had his most tackles, the most tackles for loss, a sack, and 6 interceptions. What more can you sit here and say? We got to keep him at least for 1 more season. For the safety group, it's very interesting here. You know, Jalen Petrie here, we gave him a 2-year contract extension. He's still on this roster as an 82 overall. He got up to X Factor as well. You know, he's under contract for another season. So we kind of have 1 safety spot secured. The other safety spot is in the interesting spot here. You know, Marcus May here will probably either A, retire or hit free agency. Jabril Peppers is entering in as a free agent. What do we do with him? You know, he didn't have, you know, in his 3 years here, you know, he made season 1, he made an impact, 3 interceptions. Year 2, quietly, he was just a solid player. Year 3 with us, he was an okay player. I love Jabril Peppers so much. His versatility is amazing on this defense. I just don't know if we can really afford him. We do have Christopher Lockhart here, who at this moment in time would be expected to be the starting strong safety if necessary. You know, he has good hit power. He's excellent in the running game. Might be a liability in coverage though, and that's the issue. This is the thing that we could potentially do though with Christopher Lockhart if necessary. You know, he's 6'2", 205. I mean, that 90 hit power is similar to that 95 hit power of Rashad Evans. You know, maybe we move him to play more linebacker, but safety is a position, at least on the defense in terms of needs, is really the only need that I am going to be focusing in on. You know, corner, I'm not going to really focus in on. Linebackers just needs depth, and same thing here with the defensive line. You know, I think this offseason is mostly focused on this offense and this really solidifying this secondary. In terms of specialist, Matt Gay is entering into free agency. We'll try to keep Gay. He's a good player. Johnny Hekker hey, he's a good player. Probably not going to keep him, though. Here are our draft picks, though. We have a first-round pick, no second-round pick because we traded for John Franklin Myers. We have a 4, a 5, another 5, and 2 6s. I do think that we need more picks. We have only 2 picks in the top 100, and we need to make sure that if we're going to take this team to the next level, we need to have draft capital. The other thing to focus in on here is the potential free agents. Now, these guys are all pending free agents right now, but let's go to players with 1 year or entering into their last year. You know, you got Nate Davis, Rashad Evans, Adoree Jackson. We'll probably pick up the 5th-year option here for Mason Pryor. We have Christopher Lockhart, Tunsil, Tevin Booth, Stephen Dalton, Nova, Carter, you know, Paul Wilkerson, who will pick up the 5th-year option for, Derek Stingley, and Christian Thomas here. So we have, you know, our number 1 corner needing a new deal. We have our number 2 linebacker, an edge rusher, 2 tackles, a safety, a starting caliber corner, a starting caliber linebacker, and a starting guard. We have so many pending free agents next year that we really need to be smart with our money, especially due to the fact that, you know, these are the pending free agents in 2 years from now. So, you know, so we have to deal with, you know, let's see, let's get to a player that we have to really make a decision on. And, you know, David Elliott, do we pick up the 5th-year option or not? Richard Palmer. We have Jalen Petrie here. You have John Franklin Myers, Marcus Cook. Do we pick up the 5th-year option for him? You know, you have Nick Bosa. You got a lot of important contracts to make decisions on right around when the 5th year, right around when we have to pay Mason Pryor. So there's a lot of important decisions we have to make here in this offseason. I don't think that we're going to give out a ton of 4-year deals. I think the terms of the veterans that we're going to bring in are going to be filling very, very specific roles on this roster more than anything. So here is your retirement class here. We have Cameron Hayworth and Mitch Morris. Both these 2 players retire. Morris is actually an interesting player that decided to retire because I was actually kind of considering keeping him for another season. But of course, he decides to retire. It's unfortunate. You have Robert Woods who retires, Cameron Jordan here who retires. Not a ton of other massive names. You know, Sterling Shepard, he was a player that I was considering to come in. Keenan Allen retires. Levante David retires. Wow, there's actually a fair amount of quality starting caliber players and even depth players across this in this retirement phase here. Now let's just kind of switch gears here before we talk about our pending free agents. Let's go to the mock draft 3 here. So it looks like the New York Giants have the 1st overall pick, and they might be drafting a quarterback. Same thing with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Really? You know, I know the New York Giants did draft a quarterback a few seasons ago, back at the 1st draft class, but I'm surprised they're already wanting to move off of Trevor Lawrence here. But we have pick number 15 here. You know, and some of my favorite players, if I'm gonna point them out to you guys, you know, Greg Branch here, he would be an edge rusher that I would go get, but I don't think that he would be the player. Bobby James here would be a tackle that I would go get if I have the opportunity to. So if he stays there at 6, it's interesting. Chase Rosen here, the defensive tackle, he's another one of my favorites. Elijah Curley here, my favorite wide receiver, goes here at 9. Not too many. They have us taking John Dawson here. He's more of a 3rd round pick that I would take here, so they're not really helping us out in terms of who we could draft here. But if there's any players that I see that I would draft, you know, Ben Silver, you know, why take a 1st round tight end when he's going to be the number 2? Maybe we just run more 2 tight end formations. You know, I don't see a ton of safeties going here in the 1st round, and that might be good, but it's also kind of a bad thing because if we want to draft a safety with right now no 2nd round pick, you know, we would have to draft him in the 1st round. And yeah, there's no safeties besides, I think I saw one, We have Julius Ross here. And that's it. So at least we know safety would be on the board here. Same with a couple other players if this mock draft stays obviously the same. Now in terms of our pending free agents here, we have $56 million to work with. And we have 20 pending free agents here. We have players like Calvin Ridley, Antonio Macklin, Gavin Turner here, Stephen Link. You know, we have a lot of pending free agents. A lot of these guys are depth players. So let's start here in the back half here. We'll work our way up here. Ryan Tannehill, we'll let him test. He's a solid backup. For Jabril Cox here, we'll let him test as well. He was a solid depth linebacker. I think we're gonna finally let Isaiah Adam test the market. He's a good corner, just don't need him right now. I do want to keep Ben Powers though. If I can go to his player card real quick. Ben Powers here, you know, 29 years old. He has solid enough strength. His ratings are all in a quality spot as a backup. And I just think that he's just a good depth player. So a 1-year deal will bump up the money a little bit, and Ben Powers stays on the 1-year deal. As we move to Marcus May here, May is a player that we would consider bringing back, but later on. Tyler Higbee, who wants to stay, but 2 years, $12 million. I can't give that deal to him. For Matt Gay, we'll let him test as well. Jabril Peppers, this is an interesting contract. It's a 2-year, $13 million deal. It's intriguing, you know, it's about the same amount of money as we gave Jalen Petrie. I gotta think about that for a minute. For Tony Pollard, we'll let him test. We'll give him an opportunity. AJ Ken will let test. Same thing here with George Fant. Same thing here with Josh Cole. Andre Diller, will let him test as well. Tim Settle, same thing, just too expensive. Kevin Joseph here, will let test. Same thing here with Johnny Hecker here. Stephen Link, you know, we brought him in for just the depth purposes. You know, he doesn't have the, you know, he's a solid finesse rusher. He's only in his, he's entering into year 2. He's a good player. I just don't think we have really a need to keep him. Same thing, we only have $54 million to work with. Gavin here, Turner will let test as well. Antonio Macklin, you know, he's a good depth line or defensive lineman, you know, across the board, but I just don't think Antonio needs to stay on this team. Who knows? And then we have Ridley, a 1-year, $4 million contract, so that 3-year deal is no longer on the board. So now so in reality, what do? We do also have a franchise tag. Don't forget that. So we still have Jabril Peppers here, who wants 2 years, $13 million, which we can easily afford. We can give him this 2-year deal and not have to worry about safety really for the next couple seasons. Or we let him test and we see what's out there, and we gotta kind of think about that. Though for Calvin Ridley, I think this is a very fair contract offer here. A 1-year, basically I would make it a 1-year, $5 million deal. It's something that I would be willing to do. We wouldn't have to worry about the number 3 receiver, but I think that I'm gonna let Calvin Ridley test. And there's a reason. Actually, do I want Ridley to test? Where are his ratings right now? He's an 81 overall. He has solid route runnings across the board. He still has solid hands. What? The question is really, what did he really do for us? So Ridley, we traded for him right around, we traded for him for the Cardinals game. So Ridley, you know, he had probably, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 games since week 8 that he had over 3 receptions. He never hit over 100 yards. He caught a couple touchdowns. In reality, let me put his numbers together. So for Calvin Ridley's numbers, so this is his season. 47 catches for 739 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he caught 28 balls with us. So that's give or take about half of his catches with us. You know, we take 47 minus 28 here. You know, he caught a little bit more passes with us. He had definitely more yards with us than he did as a Niner. And then he caught 2 more touchdowns. But in reality, if you kind of times everything by 2, that means he would only have maybe 900, at best 900 receiving yards and close to 50 touchdowns, which is solid. Is a solid number 3 wide receiver. And for $5 million, it does kind of make a little bit of sense here. But I mean, Ridley has not had a 1,000-yard season since his 3rd year. And ever since then, he's kind of been injured. He's been suspended. I think we let Calvin Ridley go. There is a potential that we bring him back, but I think that we let Ridley test. We let him potentially go to another team, but I think we let Calvin Ridley test. We still have $54 million to work with, and we still have 1 contract to decide on, and that is to Jabril Peppers here. Though there is one thing that I want to just quickly see here, if I can just find Matt Gay. So 1.5, yeah, we'll let him test. For Jabril Peppers, it's a 2-year, $13 million deal. That's give or take about $7 to $6 million a season. It's a contract that we could easily get out of if necessary. You know, how old is he? 30 years old? It's not a bad contract. Now, I would offer him, and I'm willing to let him test. You know, that was kind of my game plan, was to let Jabril Peppers test. But I mean, he still wants to be here. He still likes the Texans. If he takes a 2-year, $10 million, I'll be happy. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to go test free agency. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to sit here and bend for a starting safety when I think that we have so many critical needs in the upcoming seasons with our own starting talents. So Jabril Peppers, letting him test is okay with me. So this is right now, if we go into preseason week 1, this would be the starting team. So in reality, when we look at the offensive side of the football, I mean, obviously you think running back, you might think of a number 2 tight end, you think of a number 3 receiver, but you look at the offensive line, you sit here and say, yep, check. And that's very true. Though I do think that if we have an opportunity to upgrade over either Nate Davis or Tevin Booth, we should do so. That's kind of the weak side of this offensive line. I think Kenyon Green is set, you know, he's set for life. We gave him a long-term deal. You know, I think Tunsil's still very good. And here's your starting defense here. Of course, you know, John Franklin Myers would start at the defensive tackle spot. Same thing here with David Elliott. So the defensive tackle spot is okay. Corner is in a solid spot. Safety is the interesting one here. Linebacker currently is in good spot because of these 2 players. So, you know, we have players that we potentially could move. You know, I don't know just yet if we're going to, but these are right now currently, this would be the starting lineup. Obviously, you know, Evans would be the starter. I just generated the best starting lineup here. Before we go into free agency, let's go see some combine results. This is something that I don't typically do on my channel, but I just kind of want to show off a little bit more of the draft class, just because I think that this draft is kind of going to be more of the meat of this off season here. So we're going to go to favorites here. We're going to look at the offensive weapons here. So let's start here with Stephen Love, my favorite running back here. 21 years old, out of South Carolina. You know, he ran a 4.9, so he's not a burner, and that's okay. I need him to just be a solid. I just need him not to be able to fumble the football, and you know, covers the ball security over everything else when carrying. Needs to work on simple. You know, he's not going to have the greatest hands, but he's not going to fumble the football, which I like about Stephen Love a lot. You know, another player that I really like is Chris Mann here, who I think could be another good player for us. 22 years old, out of South Carolina. So the 2 South Carolina backs here. He's a little bit slower, but you know, in terms of change of direction, he's a little bit better in. You know, He also doesn't fumble the football too much either. You know, for Terrell Sternum here, you know, 23 years old, he's more of a power guy. You know, won't have the best speed, but he will have solid speed. So if we want a solid power back, we could. And then for Devontae Wood here, or Wooden here, same type of thing, you know, shows ball security at times, but needs to improve on that. So he's probably gonna fumble sometimes, but he's the fastest in the class. So if we want Devontae here, or Devon here, we could get the fastest back in the class. So, you know, I still like Love a lot. I think he's my favorite out of all these runners, but do we draft a running back at the first round? Let's go with Elijah Curley here. My favorite receiver and probably one of my favorite prospects. Elite. He's a burner. He's a complete burner for our receiving core. And do we want our number 3 receiver to be a burner? That's the question. You know, he has 4.2 speed. He's elite everywhere. Might not be the best in change of direction, but he's an interesting talent for us. Devontae Gills here, 21 years old, out at USC. You know, not the fastest receiver. Not at all. He's not going to beat you down the field. But in terms of his hands, they kind of tell me that he has quality hands. A spec catch, B to D catch in traffic, A to C, C to F catching. I would sit here and say that he has probably C catching and probably C catch in traffic. That's my best guess here. Another favorite receiver that I have is Gino Duvall here. He's 22 years old out of Texas A&M here, and he's the fastest in the class. He's another burner. Do we want the burner in our slot receiver? In terms of a traditional slot receiver here, Bradley Ramsey here out of Georgia, you know, 21 years old. Also not the fastest, but still a 4.4. That is respectable. Not the best combine, but still he's just a solid receiver. And, you know, some of these other guys are probably also solid. Let's go to the tight end room. Ben Silvers is my favorite prospect, 21 years old, out of Ohio State, also a first round candidate. 9th in terms of speed, so that's solid, but he is strong. He has elite strength, so hopefully he's good in the running game. Ben Silvers might be an all-around a very good tight end. He's also a vertical threat, so you know that he will have good hands. You know he will be able to go down the field. And if he can block too, I mean, hey, that just adds to the layer. I think my second favorite tight end here was Kevin Nixon here. And he is the fastest tight end in the class. If we want the number 2 tight end to be more of a down the field presence, I think Kevin could potentially be the guy. When we look at the offensive line, like I said, I would move up to go get Bobby James here, 21 years old, out of Oklahoma State. Right, yes. And his combine results, and he did not participate. He said, fuck you to whoever the fuck I don't even remember the fucking owner of the NFL or this, whoever the fuck. Who cares? Isaiah Hoskins here, you know, he was my other favorite tackle, 21 years old. Maybe he has solid strength. He has decent strength. How many reps? Not the best reps, so he's not the strongest tackle. Do we really want to draft another tackle like Tevin, or not Tevin Gardner, like Tevin Booth? Do we want that? I don't think so. Ben Branch here, favorite guard, or one of my favorite guards here. He has elite strength, 39 reps. So if we want a new guard, Ben could be the potential guy here. But I would sit here and say, to be honest with you guys, the offensive line is, in my opinion at least, you know, I think another prospect that I really like is Troy Agnew, 22 years old at TCU, also very strong. I think we have 2 quality guards, potential guards in the first round, and an elite tackle here in Bobby James. It's just, can we get him? That's going to be the question. For the defensive side of the football here, you know, not really a ton of defensive linemen that I would draft in the first round. Zach Saunders here, I would draft, but I just don't see myself doing so. I see myself potentially going after, a guy like a Chase Rosen here, 23 years old out of Auburn. He's an excellent athlete. It looks like he can go get the quarterback if necessary. Or here with Paul Choice here, kind of the same old deal out of Texas. And, he has excellent speed. He can do a little bit of everything for your defense. So if we wanted that traditional defensive tackle, I think one of these two guys is him. In terms of linebackers, there's not too many here that I would draft even like early on. Sidney Mabin here, he would be the earliest that I would consider. That A-zone coverage is probably not the best, and he's not the fastest linebacker either, so what more can I sit here and say? He's not going to be a player that we go get. In terms of corners, same thing. Corner is not really something that I'm looking for. Those are my top 5 guys. But Gregory Carroll here, he is my favorite safety. He's not the fastest. He has marginal speed, so I don't know what that means. But I do like his intangibles with A tackle, C zone coverage. Could he be a guy? I think, Bruce Still here, he was a little bit potentially of another player. He has better speed, so do we want more speed at safety? Bruce could be that guy if necessary. We do need a safety. Rashad Clinton here, he is another potential first-round pick. Also solid speed. Let's go to here with Matt. He will be the last player we look at here. 21 years old. He's a hybrid, so, he can do a little bit of everything here. And he's the fastest in the class at strong safety. So Matt Turbin is a very interesting prospect. Actually, he might be the best safety. He could be. I don't know. But those are the safeties. These are the 2 quarterbacks. But that's the draft. In reality, I don't know where we're gonna really go. So let's go now check out this free agency class. And here's the 2025 free agency class. We have Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Daron Payne here, Emmanuel Agba here, Tony Pollard, Sky Moore, Kayvon Thibodeau has made it to open free agency, Kyle Hamilton, Garrett Wilson, Grady Jarrett here, Von Bell. There is actually a ton of talent out here, a ton of quality talent, if I do say so myself. Let's see any quarterbacks. We have Baker Mayfield, Taylor Heineke, Gardner Minshew. There's some solid quarterbacks out here. Josh O'Neal here. I don't even know who the hell this guy is. Let's just look at his player card. Because oh God, wait, how do I look at players' cards again? I always forget this. It is Y. I don't know why it's Y, but it is. He's a 68 overall, second-year quarterback. Was he even drafted? Did someone just he was on the Buffalo roster. He was a second-round pick. The hell is he doing in free agency? I don't know. Okay. Well, if we want a veteran runner, there are quality backs out here. McCaffrey's out there. For wide receiver, we got DJ Moore, Sky Moore, Garrett Wilson, Chase Claypool, KJ Hamler. We kind of know what Devin Duvernay brought to the table. Calvin Ridley does have an offer out there. We have DJ Chark, Traylon Burks. So this is an interesting draft or free agency period. When we move over to the tight ends here, you have Irvin Smith, Tyler Higbee. Higbee has some offers out there. There's some quality tight ends, not a ton, but quality. For the offensive line, in terms of upgrades on our end, probably none. But we're not looking to go out there and pay for a new tackle. Taylor Moton here would probably be the only tackle I would go get, but I don't want to pay him $8 million this season. For the defensive line, I've talked about this already. I'm not going to look to address it. We could, but I just don't think that we need to. For the defensive tackle position, I mean, hey, if we do want a veteran, we could go get one. I don't know if we will. There's a lot of quality starting caliber players, but not a ton of, what's the word, game changers out here. I think we really need to be smart with both our money. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau would be an excellent go get, but We decided not to trade for him. Corner, we don't need. Safety is the big one. Do we sit here and say to ourselves, do we want to try to get Jabril Peppers to come back? He has no offers out there. You know, Kyle Hamilton is out there. He wants, what type of money does Kyle Hamilton want? He wants a 4-year, $32 million deal. I just don't see myself wanting to pay Kyle Hamilton. I just don't. So in reality, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give a 2-year contract offer here to Jabril Peppers. We'll bump up the signing bonus. So he's going to have a little bit more of freedom. We're going to give him this 2-year, $10 million deal. If he wants to come back, he can. I like Jabril Peppers. He's an excellent player. I like him a lot. So we will give him that contract offer. I do think that the other important free agency signing is the receiver. And, you know, I don't think we can we can't get DJ Moore. $20 million we can't afford. Sky Moore, we could afford, but he's young, he's 25, he wants a big payday. Same with Garrett Wilson. I just don't see myself going after one of these two guys. Guy like a Chase Claypool, would he come in for a 1-year deal? Maybe. You know, I like Claypool a lot, but you know, I don't think that he would accept a 1-year deal. KJ Hamler, I don't know if he's really fit for the slot. I really think that right now it is either Chase Claypool or Calvin Ridley. There is not like an immediate like veteran upgrade here. Though the interesting thing is that, you know, I would go after Chase Claypool, but he has very little interest in coming here, surprisingly. Though I guess we could just cheese the system and change our offense to a vertical power run. Not gonna do that. What we're gonna do is this. We are just gonna give Calvin this straight up 1-year, $4 million deal. I'm gonna give him that straight up. With Chase Claypool, though, we're gonna give him that. We're gonna give him a 1-year, $6 million deal. $10 million for the number 3 receiver. Absolutely. So, you know, Calvin has interest from the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to give this 1-year deal here to Chase Claypool. One of these two guys will sign, or best case scenario, we sign both of them. And then we kind of have this issue of who do we start for the number 3 spot. I don't think that's a problem, but I really do like that direction. So currently, we have Peppers who we're trying to bring back. Same with Ridley. Chase Claypool is the newest potential receiver here. Now, I think across the board, we don't need to go out there and spend a ton of money. So are there 2 spots on the roster right now that we need to target? I'm going to be offering a 1-year deal here to Matt Gay. Just try to get him to come here on a $1.1 million deal. And I think that's it for this first stage here. You know, Kyle Hamilton's an excellent prospect. There's not a ton of elite talent that's young. You know, I would sit here and say getting Kayvon Thibodeau, Kyle Hamilton, you know, maybe a guy like an Adba here would be good, but I just don't think that we need to go after anyone. You know, I know we need depth across the offensive line, but I kind of want some of these guys to just get signed, so then we could potentially just lowball some guys. So yeah, I just don't see myself. I mean, the number 2 tight end, if we wanted a blocker, I mean, if we're just gonna go strictly for run blocking ratings, let's just see this. Pass run blocking. I mean, Nick Boyle here. I mean, we could go get on a 1-year. How much does he want? A 1-year, $3 million. I don't think we need to target that right now. I don't think that should be a priority. The number 2 running back is still up in the air. You know, McCaffrey has a ton of interest in coming here, but I'm not going to offer him a deal. No yet offers there for Tony Pollard. I mean, Ronald Jones would be an interesting player. What did Jones do this past campaign? I mean, Jones, 400 rushing yards. I mean, he did okay. Nothing spectacular. yeah, I just don't see myself targeting really a running back here. You know, Zach Moss, no, he doesn't have the speed. I just don't see myself targeting someone here. Now, Jabril Williams, he could be a guy, maybe just as that solid, well-rounded back. I think we're just gonna, I think this is pretty simple. It's these 4 free agent targets right now, so let's just evaluate. So we did re-sign both Jabril Peppers and Calvin Ridley. Both of them are coming back on a 2-year, $10 million deal for Jabril Peppers and a 1-year deal here for Calvin Ridley. We gave him the fair offer. He decided to stay. He decided not to go to Pittsburgh. Right now, Chase Claypool is getting a little bit more interest around the league from the Bears and the Colts. Don't know why the Colts are interested. And then Matt Gay. If we go around the league, so we have Christian McCaffrey signing with the Dallas Cowboys. Did Dallas have the 2 best running backs in the league? Oh, God. Daron Payne here going to the Cleveland Browns. Adma here going to the Broncos. Kayvon Thibodeau going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kyle Hamilton going to go to Atlanta. Garrett Wilson is joining Christian McCaffrey as a Cowboy. Grady Jarrett going to the Dolphins. Von Bell going to the Jets. Not too many. Devin Duvernay going to the Panthers. Not seeing too many other players. Marcus Peters going to the New York Giants. Giants also brought in Higbee. And LA brought in Baker Mayfield at quarterback. Is there a quarterback competition? Eric Kendricks going to the New York Jets. Right here, right now, not a ton of important free agent signings. Jameis Winston, I think, going back to Atlanta. I don't remember if he was ever on the Atlanta team. So we still have, a couple players that we could resign or bring in. I'm not gonna offer a higher contract here to Chase Claypool or to Matt Gay. We have $36 million. I kind of want to keep it right now and really kind of hit the litter. I think right now it's kind of trade season for us. So let's start here in the trade block here. We have Dalton Baker at quarterback. I'm not looking to trade for a quarterback. Running back could be a spot here. Not going to look to trade for Kareem Hunt. A guy like an Andrew Downing might be a player that we could be interested in. He's 26 years old. He's going to enter his last year of his deal. He has excellent speed. He could be a solid difference maker. He's been a Chief for the last few seasons, but I just don't see myself targeting Andrew. Lance Johnson, kind of the same thing. He's more of a receiving guy, but he has a little bit more of moves in him, but not the best ball carrier. He can catch the football. I just don't see myself wanting to go get him. Pat Vernon, I think he's a good player. I think, he's a solid back. I don't think any of these running backs would do it for me. In terms of wide receiver, same thing. There's a couple guys that you could argue, but I just don't see myself. For tight end, Felix Matthews here, he would be an interesting prospect, but, overall, for one season, trading away a draft pick, no, I don't see myself. Brenton Beckett here, second-year tight end, but he's a blocking tight end. He's never going to really beat you with his speed. He's just going to always be a blocker. Just don't see myself wanting him. Now for the offensive line, it's kind of interesting. You have Brenton Egwit here, third-year tackle here from the Ravens here, but not the best strength. He's excellent pass blocking. I don't want him. But there's a few other interesting players. You have Brett Rivers here. He's going to enter into his third year. He's a center, but he could probably play guard. But he's not the best in run blocking, so do you really want to trade for just a one-dimensional offensive lineman? And then finally have Scott Washington here, entering into year 3, and he's a little bit more well-rounded. I think Scott would be a very interesting prospect to go get. And, I think that Scott at what's his height, 6'5", you know, he isn't good enough. He might be okay at tackle, but I think that Scott should be a player that we write down and think about. He would be an interesting player. Carl Brooks is up for grabs here. No one else, you know. Darren Grant here, he's more of a run stopper. I mean, if we want to young for a season, Darren Grant here would be an interesting prospect. What has he done throughout his career? He's done literally nothing. Second round pick, kind of a bust, you know. Would be an interesting player to bring in here for a season. Corner, same thing. Not really looking at any of these guys. Same thing here at safety. You know, CJ Ruggs here. He would probably be a solid safety for a season, but I don't really want him. I actually think that if we're going after anyone, Darren Grant here at 24 years old would be a good prospect to go get, but I think we got to go get Scott here. I think Scott is a very much of an interesting player here, and their top needs here is center, defensive tackle, quarterback, right outside linebacker, and wide receiver. And a deal has been done. We are trading to the Pittsburgh Steelers Alonzo Carter, a future third round pick, and a current day 6th round pick to go get Scott Washington, guard, and then running back Pat Vernon, 2 players that they have on the trade block, 2 players they want to move off of. But we went out there and we traded for 2 young prospects that are not starters on this roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, you know, I know we gave up a draft pick, but now we got Scott Washington here. Entering now into year 3 here. You know what? He's an 18th ranked guard. I think that he has that strength. He has good enough strength. I think he's good enough to play tackle if necessary. But we fixed a part of this offensive line because I think we're going to move off of either Nate Davis or Tevin Booth today. We also brought in Pat Vernon here. I think that just the prospect of him at 25 years old, he's a burner at running back. He's an excellent player to go get. He's cheap. And, you know, yes, we move off of a 3rd round pick, but I think bringing in Pat makes a whole lot of sense. We only gave up a 3rd round pick next year in Alonzo Carter, basically. I think a move makes a whole lot of sense. So I've been trying to make this trade work here with Tevin Booth to try to get Grant here from the Carolina Panthers, because the Panthers need a tackle desperately. And, you know, they need a tackle desperately. I like Grant as a prospect, but to be honest with you guys, I don't think that we're going to make this move to go get him. You know, as much as I like him, I just don't see the value in trying to trade away, you know, a starting caliber tackle, and we can't get either a 2nd round pick. I know I could throw in something else. This trade almost works. I would, you know, if I throw in, let's just say like a 6th round or a 5th round pick, it would work. The thing is this, I just don't want, I would rather to have a 2nd round pick here. So I think Tevin Booth, right now, he is staying on the roster, and we're not going to go after Grant. No more trades are probably going to come. So I decided just to kind of look at the potential offers for Nate Davis. And, you know, you got Logan Wilson out there that they're offering, Taylor Cantwell from the Broncos. You got Dexton Hill here. You know, you got Karen Koblet here. A very interesting trade offer that, you know, you got to kind of scroll a little bit, is all the way down here by the Seattle Seahawks. Thomas Groves here. If you guys don't remember him from like, I think it was like week 2, week 3 of this year, he like sacked us 4 times. I'm not going to make this deal. I just wanted to see which teams would be interested potentially, what type of strong offers, but Seattle is kind of intriguing me here a little bit of how much they value Nate Davis. And a deal has been done. We are trading Nate Davis for Seattle's 2nd round pick and 6 and 7. So we're getting a couple draft picks back, and we're moving off of starting guard Nate Davis. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because we traded for Scott Washington. Scott is going to be younger. and he's going to be on the roster for the next couple seasons. And now when you look at across this offensive line, where you sit here and say to yourself, you know what, we get worse a little bit at guard because of Scott, but we get a second round pick back, a couple later round draft picks. And I think in terms of the offensive line, I don't think we should move off of Tevin Booth here. Booth is still young, 24 years old. It's a make it or break it type of season for him. And I think that's the direction we should go here. I do not think that we should go into the direction of, you know what, we just trade. I don't think we should force that trade. The Nate Davis move does make a whole lot of sense. We traded for Scott Washington for a reason, and I think Scott will be yes, the running game will take a little bit of a dip, but I think the passing game should improve. He has a couple years to develop. We might even make him a focus player and just work on a little bit of that run blocking. I think that's okay. The last player that potentially could be moved is Rashad Evans right now. When you think about it, Evans does make a whole lot of sense to be moved. But for right now, I think that we're not going to touch that. I think that right now we're going to go back to the free agency pool and try to bring in some depth here as we sim to the next week. So as we sim to the next week here, we see that, you know, we have the College Pro, we have the mock draft 4, but first, before we get into that, due to the fact that we made some trades, and I think we need now some veteran talent on this roster, let's look around this league here. So Chase Claypool is still yet to make his decision. He's getting a lot of offers. Again, not going to adjust there. We got our guys. You know, we saw McCaffrey, DJ Moore going to the Chargers. So that's going to be interesting. And Tony Pollard is going to go to Carolina. Oh, wow. And Sky Moore going to the Washington Commanders. There's not too many other big moves here. Sam Hubbard going to the Lions here. But I think right now, you know, I want to go get a veteran offensive lineman. We need another lineman here. I think we need a veteran corner, a veteran linebacker, and maybe a veteran safety. We're just going to go after a bunch of veterans that I like, that play a potential role on the offense or defense. And, you know, we still have $42 million to work with. So, you know, these are still the top guys out there. There's not going to be a ton of long-term moves. These are going to be a lot of one-year deals, and that's it. So I've went around the league, and I've made some one-year deals to some potential free agents. So we still are right around $25 million, which is kind of where I want to be entering into next season. So we still have both Matt Gay and Chase Claypool, but we're also offering a one-year deal here to Ronald Jones, Kevin Joseph, trying to bring him back, Kendrick Bourne on a one-year deal. All of these deals are one. Cameron Robinson, Trey McBride, Brian Asamoah, and then Caleb McGarry here. So a couple offensive linemen, a couple receivers, you know, just depth players. So we shall evaluate and see if we can get any new Houston Texans. And we did. We got Cam Robinson and Trey McBride here. So we got our number 2 tight end potentially in McBride. You know, when you look at McBride as a 26-year-old vertical threat, you know, he has the speed, he has the hands, you know, this kind of fulfills that role. Blocking is still an issue, but that's okay. And then Cam Robinson, he can be basically that 6th lineman on the roster. He can play the tackle position. We brought him in mostly for the pass protection. And I like this decision to bring in Robinson. You know, with everyone else, you know, Brian Asamoah is going to get a new contract, so we'll let him probably just go to the Broncos here, and we'll find a different linebacker to go get. And the linebacker we're going to go try to get is Glenn Groves here. Doesn't have a lot of interest, but he's 26 years old. He has good speed, good zone coverage. Not the best of run stopping, but in terms of pass coverage, he can. As well as we see that Chase Claypool signed somewhere. So where did Claypool sign? Let's go to receivers. And Chase is going to the Panthers. So he signs that 3-year deal. I wasn't willing to give him that type of deal. So he joins here with Devin Duvernay. And that's kind of how they're replacing DJ Moore here, is by going after 2 vets here. So we do have a couple of targets trying to bring in, and we'll see if we can get them in this next evaluation. And again, second evaluation did not work. All these guys are still pending free agents. We'll just do the last one here and see if we can get anyone. And I don't think we did. And no. So free agency, in my opinion, is just about over. We're basically wrapping it up here. Let's go see the mock draft for where are they projecting us right now and across the team. So they still have 2 quarterbacks going here, 1 and 2. One of them is our divisional rivals. You know, they still have Bobby James here going to the top 10. You know, Elijah Curley here falling out of the top 10. So that's interesting. They have us taking a fullback for whatever freaking reason. I like him, but I'm not going to draft him in the first round. And they got a couple tight ends here that I like. You know, now they got the safeties involved. You know, they got a lot of interesting prospects here. So this first round pick is going to be interesting. This might be a best player available type of scenario. Either that or, you know, do we really want the Miami Dolphins to get Elijah Curley? That's the question. Do we want to go out there and get a wide receiver? Who knows? And as we sim to the next week here, you know, I don't think that any other players has been signed. So we have 5th-year options now. And we have Mason Pryor, quarterback. Obviously, we're going to pick him up. He is we have to pick this up. I think this is a no-brainer type of decision. So 5th-year option has been picked up for Mason Pryor. We should have a couple more. And I don't know if they're going to give us the 5th-year option there for... So they have Tevin Booth here. Okay, so for Booth, I'm not going to pick up Tevin Booth's 5th-year option. I just don't see it. He is in a make it or break it type of season for us. So Tevin Booth's 5th-year option has been declined. And I don't think that we're going to be getting, are we not going to be getting the 5th-year option for Paul Wilkerson? That's the question now. You know, Paul Wilkerson was a 1st-round pick. And we should be getting the 5th-year option. He was a 1st-round pick, right? Yeah, he was the 27th overall pick. So I don't know why we wouldn't get that icon come up. And no. So let me know down below if I should give the 5th-year option, because I would give the 5th-year option to Paul Wilkerson. Do you guys think that I should? Or you know what? Maybe we don't, just to force us to deal with that re-signing, and we just pick up the 5th-year option for Mason Pryor. So, I mean, I think when you currently look at the roster in terms of everything and everything, I mean, you know, yes, what have we really done? We do have a solid number 2 back here in Pat Vernon here. We do have a number 3 receiver in Calvin Ridley and a number 2 tight end here in Trey McBride. We have our starting 5 linemen with a couple of veterans here that could start if necessary. You know, sure, we'll fill out the depth of the roster with necessary players. But I think in terms of the offense entering into this draft class, I really still think that still drafting a wide receiver, running back, or tight end in the 1st round makes a whole lot of sense. Even a lineman makes us some sense because you still have your 2 tackles that are entering into their last year of their deals. The interior of the offensive line is more secured right now, so tackle could be in play, but maybe not. When you flip it over to the defense, you know, you got your 2 starting linebackers here. You got Rashad Evans, who's still on the roster. You know, depth across this linebacking core does make a whole lot of sense. Maybe another veteran. I don't know just yet. Safety, in my opinion, still could consider it. You know, we gave Peppers that 2-year deal, but we're kind of keeping this secondary together here. So I really don't think that we need to really force any issue. You know, in terms of defensive tackle, you got Elliott and Myers, basically. So I think this team is kind of set. I think we're kind of ready for free agent or for the NFL draft. So let's go look at the free agency recap here. Got McCaffrey going to the Cowboys. We know that. Same with DJ Moore going to the Chargers. Deron Payne going to the Browns. Any other news, you know, Thibodeau. There's a lot of movement here. And the thing is this, we do not see our divisional rivals making too many moves. So A lot of them are keeping their cards close to their chest here. I don't know what moves they've done. These are our my signings. Oh wow, we actually got some new players here. So we did get Jabril Peppers and Calvin Ridley. We also got Ronald Jones, Kendrick Bourne, Cam Robinson, and Caleb here. So we did add another veteran tackle here and another veteran receiver. So does receiver kind of get off the board here, because we brought in Kendrick Bourne to be kind of that, you know, other veteran receiver presence on this roster. So does receiver kind of get off the board there in the first round? I don't know just yet, but happy we got some players. We do have private workouts here, so let's go do our private workouts. So I think as we sit here and think about what do we want to go get, that's the question. What do we want to go get here? You know, I definitely think that, you know, if we want, you know, an offensive weapon, I got enough information here at the running back spot. You know, wide receiver though, it's kind of a little different here. You know, I do like Brian Ramsey, you know, Devin Gills here I like, same with Duval. Curly I love just with his speed, but I think I have enough information here, you know, just in terms of the what's it called, just in terms of the overall knowledge. Though I do think looking at these one of these tackles here makes a whole lot of sense. So let's, you know, Garrett Bryan here, 21 years old, out of Oklahoma. He has excellent strength. Okay, so Bryan should definitely be considered here. Jonathan Ruth here. I'm looking for strength right now. I know these tackles can play. It's just how strong are they? And that's really the question here. And so for this private workout, I think we're gonna go with I think we go here. So let me look at Ruth one more time. So he's more of a run blocker. I think we go with Bryan here. So we go with Bryan. When we flip it over to the defense, you know, I think that I kind of want some more information here on these safeties, even though these actually, we kind of have the safeties locked up. Who do we want to be our private workouts? Do we just kind of confirm it with Elijah Curley here? And, you know, kind of see and kind of get the full scouting report here on Matt? Maybe that's what we do. Because Matt was the fastest safety in the class. So I think we go with these guys. So we go with tackle Garrett Bryan here, Elijah Curley, and Matt Turman here as our private workout players. So we'll see what information that holds. We do have mock draft 5 here. I'm hesitant to really look at it just because that's typically, for the hell of it, we'll look at it. Hopefully there's some change here. So the quarterbacks are expected to go early here. You know, I guess if we sit here and we want Bubby James here, we go get him. But I'm not gonna make that move. You know, John Ruth here, you know, I like the other guy better. I like Bryan better here. So if we want to go get a tackle, we have to trade. If we want Curly, we gotta probably trade. So in terms of best player available, it's going to be interesting here. There's a lot of talent at the back half of this draft class, so obviously we shall see. And so here is our draft class here. We have actually a good amount of picks here. We have the 15th overall pick, a second round pick, a third round pick. So we got our second round pick, a third round pick, a fourth, 2 5s, 2 6s, and a 7th. So we have a lot of draft capital to get some depth across this team here. And when you look at this team, and then we're gonna just do one more screenshot here before we get into the draft. When you look at this team, again, I think the obvious question is, where do we go with this first round pick? I do think that I would like to get an offensive weapon here, just because McBride's on a 1-year deal, Jones is on a 1-year deal. You know, I still think a wide receiver is in play. I think a running back's in play, even tight end. I think offensive line across the board is in play. For the defense, you know, I think that safety is still in play, even though we have Jalen and Jabril both for another season. I think defensive tackle, if we're going to go in terms of the front seven, defensive tackle is more the route I would go in instead of drafting the defensive end. You could argue in a corner, but I think I'm going to go more in the veteran route to fill out the bottom of the roster there. And a linebacker maybe, but I don't think so. So I would say defense, defensive tackle, safety, offense, an offensive weapon, or a lineman. So still a lot of positional groups. We're just going to probably take the best player available, most likely. So obviously we shall see. And let's begin the 2026 NFL Draft. Here in year 5, the New York Football Giants hold the first overall pick. And the New York Giants, as we pick number 15 here, trading up is in the options. I don't think that we will. But what will the New York Giants do? We're not going to trade with them. The Giants select in the first overall pick, Trent Saunders here, quarterback, West Michigan here. So the New York Giants, they drafted a quarterback a few years ago. Now they're replacing him. With the Jacksonville Jaguars, the second overall pick, Cody Brooks here, quarterback, Gambling State. What the hell college is that? Who the heck knows? The Chargers select here the third overall pick, Coral Edwards here, off-ball linebacker, probably more of an edge rusher. The Niners, Greg Branch here, trying to replace Nick Bosa, who they let go a few years back. Here comes the Green Bay Packers with the 6th overall pick, John Flanders here. And now this is right around the range of the tackles. Do we make the move? That's the question. Do we sit here and look at our roster and say it makes a whole lot of sense? I don't think so. I don't think trading up in the top 10 makes a whole lot of sense. So the Detroit Lions here draft Bubby James here, tackle out of Oklahoma State here. The New England Patriots, who are trying to get back in this conference, draft Joe Woodyard here, wide receiver, Michigan. The Minnesota Vikings with the 8th overall pick, Jonathan Ruth, tackle, Georgia. The Commanders now, the 6th overall pick, Garrick Bryan here, tackle out of Oklahoma. So the tackles that I really like are all gone, so I'm not going to really think too heavily about that. For the LA Rams here, who they go, Michael Demps, my favorite corner, is off the board, not a positional group that we're targeting. The Carolina Panthers, who do they go get? Luke Gordon, quarterback, Virginia. So they just drafted themselves a new quarterback. He has a new weapon. We'll see what he can. Well, he actually doesn't have a ton of weapons there in Jacksonville anymore. The Miami Dolphins, who they draft here with the 12th overall pick, Elijah Curley, Georgia. So what is the receiving group here in Miami? That's the question. I mean, I know they have Tyreek Hill, they have Jalen Waddle, they have John Pounds. They got the guys. They don't need another wide receiver. You know, you go get, I don't know, a strong safety, a corner, anything else. You don't need him. Oh my goodness, you gotta be kidding me. Well, that's unfortunate, but that's okay. Curley can go be a 4th receiver. The Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Lawrence Hopkins, defensive end here. And then the Dallas Cowboys, 1 pick before us. Who do they go get? Chase Rosen, defensive tackle, Auburn. And now your Houston Texans are on the clock. And there's a lot of things that we potentially could do with this pick. You know, I think if you start here on the offensive side of the ball, you could go with one of these 2 backs here. I like Stephen Love a lot. He is my favorite back, but is 15 too high. For wide receiver, I like Duvall here. He's probably my favorite receiver out of these 3 guys. But, you know, do we draft a receiver? Do we go with the tight end selection and draft Ben Silvers, Kevin Nixon, Nolan Baker? I don't know. Do we draft a lineman here? You know, we have Branch still available. We have some centers. You got Agnew out there. Thomas is probably not a guy we go get. You know, do we go get, you know, another pass rusher? I mean, we definitely could. Zach Saunders is there. He's my favorite edge rusher. Or do we go with more of a, you know, defensive tackle choice? I don't think we're going to go in that direction. Linebacker, I don't really think so. I mean, safety is there. So we know that Matt Turman here is a first round talent. So we know that. But do we want to draft him? He could potentially fall into the second round. So if we go to all players real quick, you know, every single player on the big board here, you know, you got Jones here, you got Nick Turgott here. You know, there is still the top tight end out there. The top one of the top defensive tackles, another tackle. You know, there's still some good players here. I do think that right here, this is the spot that we should trade out. And that's where I'm going to be looking towards. I think that we'd move out of this pick, try to move back. And if not, I don't really know. So we're in the 2000, what draft class? I don't even know what draft class. 2026. I know I just said it 2 seconds ago. 2026. Okay, so we need 2026 picks. So we could trade back here, get an extra first round pick and a fourth round pick from the Chicago Bears, but we would draft in the bottom half of the first round. We could move one pick next to us and pick up a draft pick next year. That's an interesting, do I really want to help out the Buffalo Bills? Though it doesn't really give me too many answers. Do we take this pick here? No, not from the Cleveland Browns. I don't really want a second round pick from basically at the bottom half of the second round from the Bucks. We could get a ton of picks for next year. Don't think we're going to do that. Not trading with the Tennessee Titans. Not trading with the Steelers. You know, we could get an extra third. The third round pick seems interesting. And, you know, we would drop pretty far. And we would get to really kind of see this draft class go. We could get some draft capital for next season. The Colts we're not going to work with. So, I mean, I think the intriguing offer here is this one here. And we just kind of say to ourselves that, you know what, we'll get the best player available with a 32nd and we get an extra first round pick. This one, I feel like I'm cheesing the system because I don't really want to pick right now. So I do think that, you know, Seattle's pick does make a whole lot of sense. We get an extra second round pick and a third round pick this year. Kind of the same thing. I think there was one more trade offer like that. And that's the Atlanta one, which we trade back and we pick one pick ahead. You know, I definitely think that if we want a good player, so do we want an extra second round pick or do we want where did they go? Seattle, or do we want Seattle? So this difference between Seattle is that they're giving us a first this year and a third this year. What about the other team? I forget the other team. Atlanta. They're giving us a first round pick, but they're giving us a 7th round pick. You know what? I think that we make this deal here with Seattle. We give Seattle the 15th pick. They give us back in return a 3rd round pick, but we also get their next year's 2nd round pick. I think this makes a whole lot of sense for us. Seattle, go get your guy. So the deal has been done. A lot of trades this episode. Jesus Christ, this is probably the most trades I've ever done. So Seattle now has traded up to the 15th overall pick. Who do they go get? Seattle has drafted Nick Turk here, wide receiver, Michigan State. They do have a bunch of veteran receivers. Now we drafted the bottom half of the first round, so there's going to be a lot of talent going off the board. A lot of my favorite players here. As the traditional defensive tackle, the top tier tight end goes off the board, the New York Jets. They drafted the tackle here. We have 6 more picks before our pick. Some more offensive linemen. I'm okay with these guys going. Chandler Johnson here to the Saints, the Philadelphia Eagles. So back-to-back centers here. The Ravens, Kevin Nixon here, tight end. Wow. So Ben Silvers is still available, and Silvers goes. So tight end, in my opinion, is kind of out the door here. And then Terrence Sexton here going to the Falcons. So we're back on the clock here. So now what do we do? So, I mean, I think when you sit here and say to yourself, you know, we could draft a running back, which I am more than willing to do. You know, Duvall here, Gino Duvall is still on the board, and he is my second favorite receiver. So we could go get him. Nolan Baker, you know, I probably not going to draft him. Branch is still on the board. So in terms of offensive linemen, we could go get a lineman if we wanted to. You know, I do think that this pick kind of still doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, Matt's still there. I mean, we could get just the secure thing. You know, we don't draft until basically 30 more picks later. You know, we picked up an extra third round pick. I don't know. I think right now the decision is between, do we draft Matt, the sure thing? Do we draft, you know, a player like a Paul Choice? Do we go get one of these linemen? So either Adante Thomas here, Troy Agnew, or Ben Branch here? Or do we go get the wide receiver or running back? I think here, this is gonna be maybe, this might not be like a fan favorite, because I was kind of hoping to get Ben Silvers, to be honest with you guys. This might not be a fan favorite selection here, but we're gonna go with Gino Duvall here. Here with the 26th overall pick from Texas A&M, we're gonna go with Gino Duvall, the fastest receiver in the draft class. Duvall is the pick, and he comes out with normal development here. 97 speed, he's a burner, and I am hoping with the added depth of the receiving group, there's gonna be a lot of competition here in Houston, and I think that Gino can be a difference maker somewhere on this offensive side of the football. Who knows where Gino will play at 5'8"? He could even play running back if necessary. So now we got our receiver. We drafted the receiver in the first round, and I wanted to draft an offensive weapon anyways in the first round. I think that just made a whole lot of sense for us. It just did, in my opinion. So now we have, oh God, what am I doing? So now we have the Oakland Raiders here. The Raiders will select Theodore Harrell here, so they get themselves a wide receiver. We have the Tennessee Titans, Max Young. Let's get out of the first round here. Chris Mann going to the Bengals. And then another running back. So Stephen Love is still on the board here. And now Love is off the board. He doesn't fall out of the first round. And then Dougie Thomas here. So that's the first round, guys. So now what do we think we should do here in the second round as the New York Giants drafted the guard? I mean, I think when we look at the available board, this is kind of now the time for us to be aggressive here. You know, there's still a ton of talent here across the board. You know, I think that if we want to go get our safety, we go get him. I think that is definitely in play. You know, in terms of considering a linebacker, not something that I'm thinking about. Defensive tackle could be on the board, but again, I'm just not thinking about it. Saunders could be. I mean, I think right now, if we're going to go get someone, it's either Troy Agnew or the safety. So maybe what we'll do is just wait for one of them to go off the board and go get the other one. So Jacksonville's on the clock here. Who do they draft here? And they draft a different guard. Cam Baker here. So a couple running backs in the bottom. And the Niners, Larry Millow Quarterback out of Yale falls into the second round. Julian Ross here, safety to the Packers. We have Jackson here going to the Lions. Gregory Carroll, safety. He was my favorite safety, but I just saw the talent. Bruce Still, so a couple safeties are gone now. Sidney Mabin, my favorite early first round linebacker. We have Webb, just got off the board at tackle. Bailey here at tackle. So neither of the guys that I'm considering here with this draft pick, they're both still on the board. So Zach Saunders going to the Dallas Cowboys. He was a consideration. 10 more picks to go here. Safety goes here to the Bills. And there goes Matt. So Matt's off the board. And the Broncos are on the clock. I am not going to waste any time here. So the Denver Broncos, I want to go get Agnew. I do not want to miss out on a potential future starting offensive lineman. So where are the Denver Broncos? Can I get your draft pick? You guys, fall back 8 spots. You guys get a 4th round pick. And I will even sweeten the deal by giving you guys a 6th round pick. So they get a couple draft picks. Deal's done. We move up here in the 2nd round. Again, a ton of fucking trades here. So I wanted to get the safety. He was probably my preferred option. But here in the 2nd round, we'll go get Troy Agnew. I think Agnew will provide that quality depth and potential future starting offensive lineman, though he will probably end up playing guard for us. So Agnew's the pick. We go get him. He is a hidden development, 92 strength. He's actually a solid athlete. He's not the best. That change of direction isn't great, but 92 strength. He theoretically could play tackle, but he also can't. He's not the tallest. I don't know who the shortest tackle is, but he's a first hidden development player in this NFL draft for us. So we go get a guard. We go help out this offense. And I really like that decision here as Paul Choice is off the board. He was my consideration here at in the potentially even again trading up, but I kind of wanted to wait a little bit here, but he's off the board here. We pick in the middle of the 3rd round. I don't really think that we have too many other targets. Let's just view the available board as the Broncos are on the clock now. So, there's still a few wide receivers. Nolan Baker is still out there. I think when we look at our favorites, there's still Rashad Clayton here. Orlando Myers, he's more of a depth guy. So Clinton here would probably be my favorite safety that's still on the board. Matt Callaway here, a guy that we haven't talked about. He's still out there, but he's 6'4". He would be a very interesting prospect to go get. Max Camp here, or Alex, he's more of an edge rusher. So, he would be an interesting, just extra depth there. In terms of defensive tackle, Bob Ballard is more of a speed rusher. I think John Dawson is probably my favorite on the board. In terms of drafting an offensive lineman, not going to happen. Who knows what will happen here now at wide receiver. Actually, we drafted a receiver. We don't need to do that. I don't know if we need all these picks now. So we might be trading some of these draft picks away. Who knows right now? There goes Baker. He falls. He still ends up being a 2nd round pick. So let's get here to the New York Giants selection here. There goes Rashad Clayton here. So my favorite safety is gone now. So now we're on the. So now Giants are on the clock here at the beginning of the 3rd round. So I think that if we want to go get a guy, we should go get him now. As don't forget. We still have 2 3s, 2 5s, a 6, and a 7. So we still have a ton of picks to make. And actually, this actually might work out. I don't think we need to move out of this. I think we stand by and we just kind of draft whoever we like on our board. Matt Callaway, he was the guy that I was considering to go get. But, you know, New York, they need him desperately. So we'll just go up to our draft pick as we see, you know, Bob Ballard is off the board, Alex Lincoln, defensive tackle. There goes Damian Russell, tight end. The Commanders, who do they go? Alex Anderson, guard. So, you know, we have a few more picks to make here, or a few more selections to go until our selection. So far, you know, a couple players that I would have considered, but, you know, we're back on the clock here. And, you know, here at the third round, you know, we still have 36 players, you know, in terms of like prospects that are like early, you know, Alex Camps, he's a day 2 to 3 prospect. And then he's the highest rated player on the board. If you go to just the overall standpoint, you know, there's still some good players, you know, you got a corner, you got another edge rusher, you got a safety out there still. But I think here in this third round, I don't think that we should wait. I think we should go get our defensive tackle. Now, we're going to go get the guy that I like, which is John Dawson here. Dawson here, you know, here in the third round, he's 22 years old. I think that he's going to be an excellent run stopper, and that's kind of more what I want. He has elite strength. What more do you want to say? So Dawson's the pick, and he comes out with hidden development with 99 strength. Oh my, this guy's going to be able to move the fucking pile for this defense. So John Dawson here out of Washington. He's the selection here. We go get ourselves a top-rated, strong defensive tackle. Back-to-back picks here with hidden development across the line. There goes Alex Caps there. You know, we have another selection here. You know, New York just decides to draft a quarterback here. So, you know, hey, we just helped out the interior of the offensive line, the interior of the defensive line. You know, we've helped out by getting a wide receiver. You know, what else should we be targeting here? As we're right back on the clock now. So let's go see who we could consider here. I do think that maybe going back to the offensive side of the ball makes a whole lot of sense. You know, I'm not looking to draft a quarterback. Running back's kind of off my board here. Wide receiver is, and I still like Gills and Ramsey. I think we might try to draft one of them. The question is there like another lineman that, you know, we sit here and say to ourselves we should go get? No. Is there an edge rusher? Not really. I mean, not at this spot here with this third round pick. You know, I think with this third round pick, we might take just kind of a chance at someone. You know, I'm not looking to draft right now a safety. So I kind of think we look at the big board here and kind of say to ourselves, who looks the most intriguing? So here in the third round, with our second third round pick, we're going to draft Larry Young out of Pittsburgh. They might not have the best coverage ability day one, but my goodness, we just hit another hidden development player here. 98 speed. I did it just based off of speed out of the two guys. Hidden dev, 23 years old. Larry Young is the selection, potentially a future starter on this defense. And we just helped out our defense massively right there. You know, I felt like we needed to draft a safety, and we went up and we got him. You know, I think that safety is still a critical need on this defense. And he's right now really the only safety on a long-term contract. So now we don't pick until the end of the beginning of the fifth round. My last tight end is off the board. So, and there goes Devontae Gills. He was the guy that I was considering to go get right now, as we enter here into the fourth round, but I'm just going to sim to our selection here. As we've made it to the fifth round here, the beginning of it, right around the 8th overall, we still have 2 5s, a 6, and a 7 here. So, you know, we still have right now 24 players on the board. You know, Jalen Rogers is still out there at quarterback. Wooden, he's still out there. That's an interesting prospect. Ramsey, I just don't think that we need to go get a receiver. There isn't a tight end. In terms of drafting an offensive lineman, I mean, do we want to draft another guard? I don't think so. You know, Jamison Hughes is an interesting prospect here with that A power moves. So he's definitely a candidate here. Bishop here is another candidate with that A finesse moves. You know, Reed Jacobs, that kind of makes a little bit of sense here. Corner, no. We could draft our kicker here, but no, not going to do that. I think here, you know, we got Brock. I think here we can draft a linebacker, get a depth. So Reed Jacobs, Brock Cup here would probably be the two that I'm considering from, or a defensive lineman. We got two to consider, or we go out there and we draft Ramsey and that, or Wooden, I guess. So we've helped out wide receiver, guard, and so I actually think here we're gonna draft Devon Wooden here. Here in the 5th round, 23 years old, out of Michigan, Devon Wooden. We're gonna select him. 94 speed, normal dev. So offense is, you know, not getting a lot of hidden dev rookies at the offensive skilled positions, but good change of direction, great speed. We have another 5th round pick. He's an intriguing prospect here for our offense, and I think that he could add a little bit to our special teams if necessary. He was the fastest running back in the draft class, I believe, from what I remember. But right here, right now, as we're getting back on the clock, this is kind of where I'm considering drafting one of those defensive linemen or that linebacker. You know, there is still a couple guys here that you could say to yourself we should draft, but there's a reason they're falling. So, you know, we still have, what, 23 players on the board. I think that right now it's drafting one of these front 7 players. Reed Jacobs here kind of intrigues me a lot. You know, Devin Bishop here also intrigues me a lot. James Hughes, you know, he's interesting. Let's start with these defensive line. He's 6 foot. He's not the strongest, not at all. He might just be a Stephen Dalton kind of replacement. So do you want that? Or do you want someone like a Devin Bishop here, who's 23 years old? He has A finesse moves. He's also, he actually has solid strength here. Bishop is an interesting prospect here. Or do we go after a linebacker where, you know, something that we have not really addressed too heavily? And when you think about the linebacking core, we have a lot of younger guys. I don't think that we really need to go get that. I actually think that Devin Bishop is just the most intriguing player here in the 5th round, and that's what you do with the 5th round pick. So Bishop is the pick, 90 or 87 strength here. He's a solid athlete. Bishop's an interesting prospect, and you know, we want to see where those finesse moves are, but we kind of help out the interior of the defensive line. As we're gonna now just sim to our pick here. I'm not gonna look to trade up. I'm not looking to trade at all. Kind of done with that in and of itself. But now, as we enter here into the 6th round, we still have 14 players on the board. We have 2 selections here. You know, there's still a quarterback on the board. No more running backs. Emmett Olsen seems like an interesting prospect. I'm not drafting a receiver. No more offensive linemen, no more defensive line besides Brian Williams. Not gonna draft him. Cup is there if we want him. We still need a kicker and punter. And so who do we prefer between these two? I looked at both of them. I like Randy Moore a little bit more. So we're gonna draft Randy Moore. He's 22 years old. He's an accurate kicker. Moore is the selection here. 91 kick power, normal development. He'll be our starting punter this season, so we still have our 7th round pick. As we've made it to the 7th round here, we still have 7 players on the board. You know, a corner, a couple wide receivers, a quarterback, Olsen here. You know, and where's the running back group? We drafted a running back. I mean, there's no more defensive linemen. We could draft a corner for the shits and giggles, but you guys know me. I really like Emmett Olson here. He seems like such an intriguing prospect. So Olson is the selection here in the 7th round. And Olson's coming out here with 75 strength, 75 speed, a lot of 75s. But Olson is an interesting prospect. He's normal dev. Maybe not the strongest. I don't know what Olson can do. But hey, we might be running 2 fullback sets here. And now we'll just sim to the end of the draft. So what do you think, everyone? Well, how did you think that I decided to do with the decision? Let's look at our draft class. And Gino Duvall, 26 overall. He comes out, or overall, he's a 74 overall, normal dev. And, you know, he's a deep threat. He's not going to be the slot receiver, I don't think. He's more of an outside guy. But he can do a little bit of everything. If we need him to play running back, Duvall could be that type of hybrid playmaker for us. But what do you guys think about the draft class? Let me know down below. Troy Agnew, who we decided to trade up, first in development player, is a 71 overall. All of his ratings are in solid spots. He needs a year to develop, and that's what exactly that he's going to really get with us. John Dawson. Now, Dawson here is a hidden dev defensive tackle. He does have 99 strength. He has, 71 block shed. I think those power moves will go down. So he has 68 power moves. He's not a pass rusher. He needs a year to develop, but we're going to give him playing time. With that 99 strength, I think he can be able to gobble up the running game. I'm very excited to see what John Dawson can do. Then we decided to draft Larry Young here. Now Young here, we took the flyer on him. I didn't know too much about him. But you know what? 66 overall hidden dev. That hidden development will come in handy. He has 73 zone coverage, 80 hit power. He's an interesting prospect. He will be a depth player. He will get an opportunity to, just get some snaps all around. Devon Wooden here, 71 overall. He's just an athlete here all across the board. He might even be our new kick returner, just because of that 92 return and that 94 speed. But Wood could be a difference maker as just a burning type of back. We got Devin Bishop here, who I was very intrigued with. 66 overall, and I don't know if the block shed will stay the same, but let's just make it 68. He has 74 finesse moves. That's very good for a young rookie here. So very happy with that selection. And then 74 overall, Randy Moore here. Moore has 91 kick power, 95 kick accuracy. He has also 81 speed, so maybe he could run a little bit. Let's go. And then with the 7th round pick, Emmett Olson here, 70 overall. Solid fullback. You guys know me and my fullbacks for whatever reason. I love them so much. But 75 strength, I don't know if he could really be a difference maker across the board. Before we look at our divisional rivals, let's just... Who is the highest overall? And Garrett Bryan here. Oh my, and he was my second favorite tackle on the board. And Bryan, we decided not to go get. We could have if we wanted, but 79 overall. Hey, you know what? We can't get all the high-rated players. Corey Brooks going to Jacksonville, 78. Let's just do this. Trent Sanders, New York probably just drafted themselves a bust at quarterback again. Corey Brooks, who I don't know if we're going to face him. I don't know why Jacksonville would draft a quarterback. They got Trevor Lawrence. Let's just go round by round. So Bubby Johnson, 74 overall. Okay with not getting him. I liked Elijah Curley a lot. He comes out with a 78. Yeah, he would definitely be worth a 99 speed. What the hell? Yeah, he would have been worth to go get as well. Deciding not to go get him might have been a mistake if we wanted that offensive weapon. But that's okay. Obviously, then we traded out, and there's not too many players that went before us. But Ben Silvers was one of those players that I liked a lot. 73 hidden dev going to the Cardinals here. You know, solid speed. He would have just been just a receiving type of tight end. Kind of okay with not getting him. And then is there anyone else here in the first round that I wanted to draft? Stephen Love, 75 overall. So, I mean, hidden development changes everything. Maybe we could have drafted kind of the same type of back as we drafted in the later rounds. I don't know. For the second round, you know, Branch, he was a solid pick here. You know, here in the second round, I was considering to trade up, but I never did. And the player that I didn't trade up for was Matt Tarrant here. 76 overall, normal development, but he would have been an all-around solid starting safety. So maybe we missed out there too. Kind of did some misses here. We can't get everyone as always, but that's okay. Paul Choice, he was a surprise pick. Of course, Kansas City picks him up. And, you know, all around a young, good prospect here for KC. Just making them a little bit stronger. You know, Saunders here, 73 overall. You know, again, not too many guys here that I would have wanted to go get. Who was that safety that I really liked? I kind of forget his name off the top of my head. I think he went in Gregory Carroll, 73 overall. Hidden dev, but that's 74 speed though. The speed was the thing that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I thought he was going to be a little faster, but my goodness. I definitely think we had a good draft class. You know, we hit on needs. We got an offensive weapon. We got a future guard. And then defensively, we got a couple future prospects. But we really helped out the offensive side of the ball with Agnew and Duvall here. Maybe not the best at the respective positions, but that's okay. Let's go look around our division. Let's start here with the Tennessee Titans because they're right here. Max Young, so they got a good young corner, and then they kind of didn't do too much else here in the draft. But Max Young might be a projected starter here for the Titans. Then we move over here to Jacksonville. You got obviously Corey Brooks here at quarterback. Got a guard here. And then after that, you know, they drafted Brian Ramsey here. Ramsey was a receiver I liked. He is an excellent slot receiver. Yeah, he would have been a nice pick, but, you know, I think we drafted very well here, but, you know, they didn't really do too much either. And then the Colts here, they drafted another tackle. They drafted Travis Williams here, possession tight end. I think Williams was on my board. Yeah, he was a good player. But my goodness, so in reality, our division did not get, in my opinion, better through this draft class. Let's just go through highest awareness. Luke Gordon here, quarterback that went to the same with Calvin. These are the two highest what's it called, awareness. In terms of speed, Curly, best speed here. We got the second best, or tied for the second best. Strength, John Dawson here. A lot of strong players, but we got the best in terms of carrying. We got the best carry here, Devontae Wooden. Wow, so even better than Stephen Love here. Let's go to catching here. So Kevin Nixon, tight end. Ben Silvers was there too. We got actually one of the higher ones, right? Or no? No, we didn't. Duvall is kind of like cut in the middle right there. In terms of throw power, you know, we got Corey Brooks. We got a lot of interesting. Wait, what? Guys, did anyone else notice that? We got Larry here. We got obviously Corey. Timeout. Throw power here. Emmett Olson here. Does he have quarterback ratings? Is he like a former quarterback? He has solid 86 throw power, 69 throw short accuracy. Wow. Did we have kind of like a hidden quarterback here potentially? Jesus Christ. Well, we'll kind of carry on here. Let's go to pass blocking. Garrett Bryan, obviously. Run blocking, let's see, Bryan again. No, it's actually Chandler Johnson here. Bryan's number 2. Defensively, let's look at tackle. DJ, wow, I don't even know who the hell that is, but he has the highest tackling block shed, and that's Terrence Sexton here. He was a kid that we probably should have considered more. Sidney Jones here. Very intrigued right now with our fullback selection there. I was intrigued with him just because of potential speed at the fullback position. I kind of wanted that. And then let's just see the durability. So we did not, thankfully, we didn't draft a guy that has a high injury percentage. Doesn't look like it, but it is very interesting to see a fullback and top somewhere in terms of the quarterback position, in terms of throw power. So as we now sim, we have the preseason. We know we have 3 preseason games here. I do want to check on a couple things here before we end today's episode here. I want to check out the Jacksonville Jaguars depth chart and what is happening with what's his name, Trevor Lawrence, because they just drafted a quarterback. And yeah, wow, Trevor Lawrence is a 79 overall. He has regressed massively. And, you know, Trevor has not lived up to the hype, I guess, here in Jacksonville. And they drafted his replacement, and sooner than later, they're going to get it. Corey Brooks could be higher than him. Oh, my. That's one thing I wanted to look at. I also wanted to look at the New York Giants because they drafted Trent here. And Bradshaw still on the roster, still a higher overall. And, you know, Ryan Bradshaw here, you know, normal dev. You know, he's a good quarterback, but I don't know. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that. There is one other thing that I quickly want to do. So here's the fullback, Emmett Olson here. If we list him at quarterback here, so he has 86 throw power. None of his, all these ratings here are just not that good. But, you know, he has okay enough speed. He has the trucking to do so. That's him as a quarterback. I mean, he's a better fullback than a quarterback, but hey, I mean, I guess we know if we ever need a quarterback, we have another one on the team. So that's good to know. So that is free agency, ladies and gentlemen. What did you guys think? You know, we went out, we helped out this offensive group by adding a couple of veterans, a young rookie. We went out there, drafted a couple rookie offensive weapons here. We traded for a guard and drafted a guard. We brought in a couple of veteran linemen here. We got an intriguing fullback. Defensively, we got an intriguing defensive tackle, a couple of them. You know, we went out there, we kept, surprisingly, both Jabril Peppers and we kept Rashad Evans. You know, overall, this team, you know, has changed, but not significantly. You know, offensively, in reality, you know, it's our depth that we really changed. And what, 2 new starting linemen, basically, Gardner starting at center and Scott Washington at guard. And then defensively, I mean, we have the same defensive line, we have the same linebackers and the same secondary. We're kind of running it back with this team, but with some intriguing young prospects. That's what we're doing. So guys, please let me know down below what you thought of the offseason and if you're excited for year 5. And next time will be the 3 preseason highlights. If you guys are not used to those episodes, I will basically just kind of talk through the roster, give you guys my overall thought process, a little bit of gameplay. It's about a 30-ish minute episode. But let me know down below what you guys thought of the offseason. What did I do wrong? I did probably a lot of things wrong because I was mostly thinking about the longevity of this roster in terms of re-signing players. So let me know down below what you guys think. I'm going to fill out the rest of this roster with some depth players. So let me know down below. And I will be changing up some of the, giving some different cosmetics to the rookies. Let me know down below what you guys thought of the offseason. Subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to like today's video, and I will see you in the next one.